Hey YouTube, Electric Adventures here with my monthly update for August 2015. A month that went by very quickly. Must admit I didn't get a tremendous amount of content on my channel out during that time, but so I do have a bit of content due that will be coming out over the next few weeks. So anyway, I like to start my monthly update videos with other pickups, so pickups of other items that I haven't necessarily done a gameplay for, or aren't necessarily a game. So the first one was, I was just in an electronics store buying batteries, and they had a specials bin near the counter. Flipped through and found Call of Duty's Black Ops 2 for the Wii. I haven't actually played a Call of Duty game for quite some time. I have no idea what this one was like, although I believe this is one that I think Lawnboy's Post has mentioned might be okay. But, well, campaign, multiplayer, not sure I'll be playing the campaign, I won't be playing multiplayer, and zombies. You can't go too wrong. But that was only $10, so I couldn't pass that by, and it is new, so it's not second hand or anything like that. It's been obviously some old stock, and who could say no? And first Wii U game we've had for a while. Also on a related note, on a shopping trip near that day with some of the kids, they took me to the Wii U section and pointed out Splatoon. Now it's none of their birthdays anytime soon, so yes, we're having a bit of a debate on that, but I'm sure Splatoon will have to become a family member at some stage. I've heard lots of good things about it. Now, only actually probably about under a week ago, I don't know, I'm just trying to think whether this was, it was in an EB Games in a special bin. I've actually been after one of these on the cheap because I really do like F1 games, and it's F1 2013, so a couple of years old, and it was only, I think, about $6, so it looks pretty good. It doesn't have a manual, but who gives a rat's? Nothing wrong with the disc, so more likely, it's a second-hand one. Yeah, looking forward to playing that. Obviously, F1 races are a bit more towards realism rather than down-to-earth racing, so they take a bit more to get used to it. But I really do like F1 games. Although, funnily enough, don't get chosen in something else that I'm going to do in this video later. So that's it for the games. So very light on other games. I mean, I do have a pickup videos. So now there's another thing that my friend who does odd occasional electronic repairs, and he comes along and I help him out with some stuff, and then he drops me some stuff around. And he watches my videos as well, and he's seen my PSP game collection back there, and the fact that I haven't really done any PSP videos. He keeps on bringing me things to see if I can do gameplays on my PSP, but I've only got a model 1000, so he brought me another solution. Unfortunately, it doesn't work in my 1000, but it's PSP convert, full screen display, convert PSP to HDMI, full screen display on HD TV, upscale PSP full 60p to 720p, 3D motion compensation tech applied. So it's got a few things in here. You have it's an audio cable. So you have the actual cable that goes into the PSP. Now that will not fit in a 1000 model, purely because the case gets in the way. And then you have what looks like an EGA cable, but it's probably just the way they patch it through to the box. And then we have an upscaler box. So you have the input from the PSP there, a HDMI out, and the audio out separately. I think you can get the audio to go over the HDMI out as well, and there's a power supply in there as well. So I'm sure this wasn't cheap, so when he got it and everything like that, so I really appreciate it. It doesn't work with my unit, but in a related thing, I actually probably because I was looking, put a bid on a PSP 3000 in the Japanese auctions, and I've managed to get one. I won't tell you what colour it is, but it's really, really nice. I really, really like it. and hopefully it won't take too long to arrive. It's not coming slow freight. So, all right, that's it for the hardware. Now the next thing is an item I don't normally do is it's a book. Now I read Ready Player One by Ernest Cline and really enjoyed it, and he's written another book, and it's called Armada. And anybody who obviously he puts lots of pop culture references into the book again, lots of those mixed in there. It's very much Last Starfighter type of story, and it's quite an enjoyable read. And it's not a hard read. Didn't take me long to read, and I enjoyed reading the book and going back to it each time I went back to it. So I give it a very good review. So, and enjoyed it, finished it. I don't buy as many physical books anymore because obviously you have the electronic e-readers and things, but it's still nice to have a physical book sometimes. So highly recommend it, especially if you enjoyed Ready Player One. You don't have to have read Ready Player One. Completely different universe, different characters and everything like that, but it's in a similar style with all the pop references and everything like that. So highly recommended. Alright, next I'm going to put another Friday Foursome answer, number 9, to Novabug's Friday Foursome question, which was favourite racing games. So top 4, not in any particular order. I'm probably going to say that I'm going to probably start with my absolute favourite of all time is probably the Gran Turismo series. I own most of the games in the series and have followed it through. I don't actually have the latest one because I'm still playing, basically still playing 5 and getting an enjoyment out of it. And 6 came out and had all the issues with the DLC, so I just didn't bother at the time. I may get it at some stage. That might be a game that if I do see it in a special bin, I might pick it up one day. But I'm in no rush. But no, Gran Turismo, one of my absolute favourite series, and I mean probably my favourite one of it is actually number 5, the one I've enjoyed the most. And a similar vein, obviously a slightly different racing game, but still, I suppose Gran Turismo's competitor is the Ridge Racer series. I haven't played as many of the Ridge Racers games, but I played Ridge Racer before I played Gran Turismo, because obviously it goes all the way back to the arcades, and I remember that machine very well when I first played it. And although I didn't get to play it as much because it was always was more expensive than the other arcade games, so I had to weigh the choice lightly of having a game of that. And I can remember when I played in the actual arcades I could never get very far, but I always really enjoyed it. Much better than Daytona, which was basically simply going straight round tracks. Although Daytona is fun, I much prefer Ridge Racer as a racer. And probably my favourite version so far, although to be fair, I did pick up the Ridge Racer, I can't remember what number it is now, for the PS3, and I haven't actually played it yet, so is the R4, Ridge Racer 4 for the PS1, one of my favourite versions. And I still pop that in and play that when I'm having a gaming night and want to do a bit of racer in here. And my next pick, I'm harking back to the olden days, is Pole Position, and probably more specifically Pole Position 2, although we had a Pole Position 1 machine, and I believe, I don't know whether there was a conversion kit or something like that, but most of the time I saw it after, like those initial periods of time in the arcade, it was a Pole Position 2 machine. And I've always loved that game, and played the versions of it on the Atari 2600. They're okay on that, and also on the Atari 8-bits as well. So just a great, enjoyable racing game. And even though they're not realistic racing games, they're fun, and my family as a whole has gotten a lot of fun of them, and that is Mario Kart as a series. Now, I've never actually played Mario Kart for the SNES. Don't shoot me down in flames. I started Mario Kart with the Nintendo 64, and we've had a Nintendo 64 and 4 controllers since you know, since Nintendo 64s came out. So, and to even recent times, until the Wii U took over with its Mario Kart, my daughters would have friends over and they would put on the Nintendo 64 and play 4-player Mario Kart. But I dare say, since we've had the Wii U, that has taken over completely as far as the Mario Karting is concerned. Now, I have played some of the portable versions as well. So, just Mario Kart, because I've got so much enjoyment out of the series as a whole. And I'm sure some other people will pick that one as well. So I'll put a link down below to Novabug's original video. He does it once a month, which is probably why it usually ends up in my monthly update video here. Alright, next, and this is a person I've only just subscribed to because I saw a response by my good friend Mark Vigier, Lactobacillus Prime, to Alan Stewart, Mamemeister is his name. 3 random questions to the community. Okay, so his first question is, what would your specialty subject be if you're playing Mastermind? And like Mark's answer, it'd have to be science. I'd have a fair shot at answering most science questions. I'm not good in all areas, but I'd have a better chance of doing that than I would with general knowledge or sports or something like that, or even probably my second go-to may actually be entertainment, because I do know a lot of movie trivia, but it's probably slanting a bit too much towards sci-fi, so I probably would do better with science, I'd say. So question 2, what arcade game am I best at? Now, I am good at a couple of arcade games and can get reasonably high scores, but the one I can get that I've held a high score for the longest on, and probably still am reasonably good at, is Time Pilot. I used to be really good at a game called Tutankhamun. It's extremely hard, but I haven't played it for ages because it's very hard to get a decent working version of it. I actually bought an entire, at least another multi-board for my arcade cabinet because it had Tutankhamun on it. Unfortunately, it doesn't run at the right speed, so I don't usually use it very much. So you can play it on MAME, but yeah, I need to set myself a proper MAME thing and then see if I can get it running. But yeah, so my choice would have to be Time Pilot. I'm also quite good at Gyros, but I've never made it to Earth. So, whereas Time Pilot, I've been around that game several times and gotten quite a high score. Yeah, held it in my local arcade area for quite some time. Nowhere near the world record or anything like that though. Now, question 3. How many computers, handhelds and consoles do I currently own? And like he said, not going to include any PCs, because I actually have lots of those, because I am a software developer. So I have any number of those. And I'm reaching for my phone now, because I've recently, and I'm not quite finished, although I have done all the hardware, been putting my games and consoles into Klitz Games, I think it's called, the iPad app, and it's Collectors with a Z is the application you can buy for your computer. And sorry, I've pressed the wrong button. My list here currently says that I have 105 different pieces of hardware. And also, note clarification, I haven't put any Game & Watch units in here, and I do have a couple of Game & Watches. Don't have a lot of them, I do have a couple of, and other little assorted handheld games. I've only done things that can take, at the very least, a SIM card, or have multiple games. And I'm going to quickly list them here, so hopefully this doesn't get too me spelling out lots of words. So, I have, and I said I've double checked this and I've got photos in for most of them, and I will put a link down the bottom to my current collection, but as I said, I haven't quite finished all of the software. It's actually added up to way more than I thought. I've almost got, including the machines, 2,500 items in my collection, and it's a scary number. So anyway, I have an Acorn Archimedes 3000, an Acorn Archimedes 7000, an Acorn Electron, an Amiga 500, an Amiga 1000, an Amiga 1200, an Amstrad CPC 464, an Amstrad CPC 6128, a little Amstrad notepad computer, an Apple IIe Platinum, which I got recently, and sitting right there, really pleased to put in that one. I have an Apple Newton message pad. I don't think I've ever shown that. It's a H1000 model, really good condition and works. I've owned that since new. I have, here we go with the Atari 8-bits, an Atari 130XE, an Atari 400 original NTSC, an Atari 800XE, which is a rarer one, an Atari 800XL. Atari 2600 4-switch black, which is the Vader, but it's the power one. 2600 Junior. Unless I say otherwise, these systems are PAL. Atari 2600 6-switch Woody, once again PAL, not on a US one, so it doesn't have the super heavy shielding in it. Atari 7800, an Atari Jaguar, Atari Lynx Model 2, an Atari Portfolio, Atari STE 1040, and an Atari XEGS, which is another one of the Atari 8-bits, a BBC Master Compact, a BBC Micro Model B, a ColecoVision, a Commodore 64, a Commodore 64C, a Dick Smith Wizard, which is the Australian branded version of the Creativision, a Dingo Digital A320, which was my original emulation handheld, an Einstein 256, a Game Boy Color, purple clear, that I've owned since new, my GCW Zero White, which replaced my Dingo, finally, when it finally arrived after all that time for that Kickstarter, and that is quite a good little handheld in the end. And in television, a Lexibook IG900 US, which is another little handheld that has multiple games, a Mattel Aquarius, a Micro B Model 2, which is an Australian Z80 based computer, a Neo Geo CD, a Neo Geo X Gold, a Australian NES toaster, a NES Model 2 NTSC, so US one, a Nintendo 64, both a PAL one and a Japanese one, both black, an original Nintendo DS, a Nintendo DSi, a Famicom Model 2, a Nintendo Game Boy Advance, also purple, seem to have a thing for purple, a Nintendo Game Boy Micro, I love the screen on that, both a Nintendo two Nintendo GameCubes, one Japanese, one PAL, you can see them behind me there. I have an Oric 1, an Oric Atmos, an Ouya, a Panasonic 3DO FZ1 and a Panasonic 3DO FZ10, a PC Engine, a PC Engine Turbo Duo. I will actually try and pop some pictures up if I can. A Philips MSX2 and MS8250, a Philips Videotek G7000, a Pioneer MSX PX7, that's an original MSX, Japanese Saturn Grey, a Japanese Dreamcast, Sega Game Gear, a Sega Master System Model 1, a Sega Master System Model 2, and the one with Sonic in it, which is slightly rarer, a Sega Mega Drive Model 1, a Sega SC3000 computer, and a Sega SC3000H computer, one with a rubber keyboard, the other one with a proper keyboard, a Sega SG1000 Mark III, which I really like, a Silicon Graphics 02, probably haven't shown that for a while, it's down there, weighs a ton, and actually the electronics repair guy came the other day and said, I've made you a better one, so took my one away and has brought me another one, and it's apparently got 32 processors or something stupid. A Sony Klee PEG T415 and a Sony Klee PEG UX40, don't think I've ever showed those. A Sony MSX 2 Plus F1 XD, the actual crown of my MSX hardware collection. A Sony PS Vita, a PS1, both a Japanese and a PAL one, a Sony PS2 Fat, I've got multiple of them, a Sony PS2 Slim, the last model, Sony PS3 64 gig second model but still a Fat, a Sony PS3 Super Slim, a Sony PS4, a Sony PSP White, a Sony PSP spoiler Red, 3000 Red, a Sword M5, I've got it in my collection even though it hasn't arrived, so I'll just give it away, damn. Sword M5, Spectre Video SV318, a Spectre Video SV328, a Spectre Video SV318 Mark II, a Spectre Video SV328 Mark II, a Spectre Video SV738 Express, which is an MSX machine, a Spectrum 128 Plus 2, a Super Nintendo US version, a Super Nintendo PAL, a Texas Instruments TI-99 4A, a TRS-80 Model 3 and a TRS-80 Color Computer, first model, a Vectrex, a VIC-20, an original Xbox, an Xbox 360 original grey or tan colour, an Xbox 360 Slim, Yamaha CX5M MSX machine with keyboard, a Unilips YDPG-18, a ZX80 and a ZX81. That's a lot of hardware and consoles. I hadn't actually sat down, I mean I know I collect the retro computers, but yeah, that really added up. And yeah, well over, so 2,500 items in this room, and I suppose in the house as well, because that's where most of the modern stuff is. So, really good question. Sorry my answer was so long, but I haven't really gone through my collection for a while, so it was interesting. So make sure you go check out Alan Stewart, and Mamemeister as he likes to be called, and he's got some interesting videos. So when I went and saw it, I subscribed, so go and have a look yourselves. Okay, next, homebrew update. So one of the reasons why I haven't been putting out a lot of videos and I've been so busy is that the guys from Collectavision and Gamestrady1 asked me to write a cartridge for them for the game on Expo in Arizona, which was last weekend. The cartridge was a Championship NES cartridge. I didn't have a lot of time to do it. I probably have 3 months in entirety. They'd approached me before then to start writing the racing game that then got bundled up into with the rest of the things to become the Championship carts. And you've got to remember the NES is actually a fairly old system and fairly limited, and making a racing car game. So the racing car game was the hardest of the three. The Sydney Hunter game, I probably only spent 3 weeks on that, and that came together quite well. And my own Meteor Swarm went into this, so I converted that. The original conversion, it only took me 2 days. Did obviously take a few days to clean up and to add some sound effects to that later. It came together. We got it reasonably well debugged as much as possible in the timeline. Went off to manufacturing. Unfortunately, apparently on the day there was glitches, but it looks like it was down to the actual manufacturing. So hopefully they can burn new ROMs. So it looks like a segment of the ROM that contained the Meteor Swarm wasn't working properly, so nobody at the Expo got to play Meteor Swarm because the game would lock up. So they just had timed runs on the Sydney Hunter game, and that was who could complete the Sydney Hunter game part in as quick a time as possible. But apparently John Gamestrady1 is going to 2 more conventions. He's going to get so they didn't sell a lot of the carts there because of the issue. Once they discovered it, they're going to get them reburnt, and there'll be 2 more expos who'll be taking them to in the future. Obviously, since I have a little bit more time, I'll actually do a couple more bug fixes, so there will be a slightly newer version on that version of the cartridge. But anyway, it was very good fun. I'd also like to point out that prior to that, I hadn't actually learnt 6502 assembler, which is the assembler the NES uses, or the NES system at all. So I think I did a pretty good job to do all that inside 3 months. But I now know 6502 and quite comfortable with it, which I wanted to do anyway for my Let's Make a Retro Game series, where I was going to do the Z80 systems first, which I'm still going to do, and then we're going to convert the game across to a couple of 6502 systems. So I probably will eventually roll the NES into that. Now that I'm up to speed on the NES, I will be releasing all 3 of the games on that championship cart as separate games. The Sydney Hunter game will probably be a lot larger. Really, they're only mini games on that cartridge. Also with the NES, that championship cartridge was just done with plain NES hardware. There were no extensions on that cartridge whatsoever except for extra ROM space. Especially the full game of Pedal to the Metal, to best get a racing car game working on the NES, we really need a cartridge with a bit of extra RAM in it, and a couple other bits and pieces just to be able to get a more realistic racing experience, especially with the large cars the Pedal to the Metal has. I mean, it doesn't look too bad, but it could be better. So there are going to be 3 games, and the Media Swarm won't be released by itself. I'm going to do a title which I'm tentatively calling EA Classics Remixed. So I'll have Media Swarm, a Birds of Orion type game. I'm not going to put Munch Mania on it because there's plenty of Pac-Man versions on an S. There's no asteroids though, so the Media Swarm will be fine, and Birds of Orion is very Phoenix-like, but I'm going to completely rewrite it for the NES using its capabilities, because it was only a very simple game that was on the B side of the cassette tape that Media Swarm came out. And I'm going to convert one of my basic games for the MSX across to the NES as a 3rd game to go with that. So that's why it'll be EA Classics Remixed. And that 3rd game that I turn into machine code, I will more than probably make a machine code MSX and Coleco version as well. It's a bit to do, so I'm not going to commit to any particular timelines. They'll be released when they're finished, and I'm happy with them, and I'm pretty fussy. So I have several other Coleco games that are mostly functionality complete bar music and sound, so I have a little bit more confidence with sound and music now. And I've also, in the meantime, come up with an idea for a new game. I've only discussed it with one person too, so not a lot of this has come out. I've actually already done the graphics just to get in my mind what I want to do. They're not final yet, I don't have a title yet, so hopefully by next month I might be able to give a snippet of what that game's going to be. And now that I'm comfortable with the NES, all my games from now on will be released for the NES, the Coleco and the MSX. We've obviously, just for my own sake, converted back to the original Spectre Video, and may look at some, the Sega SG-1000 at some stage. I'm not really sure whether there's a market for those ones. That will purely be for my interest sakes. So lots on. Really enjoying the homebrew stuff. Probably doing more homebrew programming than I'm actually playing retro games. But that's me. That's what I enjoy doing. Alright, I've probably rattled on long enough about that, but I better do a bit of a coming up. So to reiterate, let's make a retro game. I finally got an episode out for that, and sorry it has been so long because I've been busy. I've been having trouble recording. As it was, hopefully I eliminated all of the echo. Seems if I record and I'm doing, because what I do, I write the actual episode completely up in a technical document, which is what I put on my website. I then make a PowerPoint presentation with graphics and pop-ups and everything like that, and then I record my voice whilst going through that presentation, and obviously picture in picture. I'm using Open Broadcast to do that with the settings ramped up, but it is doing the echo thing on me again. So if I record over a certain amount of time, it doesn't echo, and I do like to do things in one take, but I haven't been able to do that because of length. So, but anyway, there's another episode of that coming, probably in about 2 weeks, because I've got some other videos I want to release first, and that's the next part of learning Z80, and then we get back on to actual getting some of the mechanics of the game working. So those episodes should come out on a more regular basis, say every 3 weeks, worst case. And another one of my series that I've neglected for a little while just because I simply haven't had time, and it's A to Z of my MSX collection. The next letter is O, which is actually a very dry letter, so we'll quickly get that episode out of the way so we can get on to P. There's plenty of games to choose from in P, and pretty much for the rest of the alphabet. Going to be some fantastic games for that. My trade video, I have everything out and ready to go. I've cleaned up the room, trying to put my collection into the database, and I'll put that video together. I just want to type all the games up into an Excel spreadsheet, so anybody asks I can send it to them. And then room tour. Well overdue room tour. 2,500 items in my collection now. About time I did a nice new video showing you all the bits and pieces, especially some of the bits I'm proud of, like my MSX collection, which you see in the back all the time. It's grown to completely fill that shelf section, and there's some fantastic titles in there. But there's other parts of my collection that have grown quite a lot in the last year, especially my Japanese systems like Nintendo 64. My collection's grown. My Famicom, and even the Saturn and the PC Engine collections have continued to grow. And of course, my retro computers, which I haven't done a video since I've done this new layout. Alright, I've probably waffled enough. Hope you've enjoyed this channel update for August 2015. Everybody out there, enjoy your retro games and your collecting, and I will catch you next month.